Most of us are here because we have a problem with our business. I mean, let's face it, you don't go seeking out the differences between LLCs and S-Corps unless you think there's a way that it can help you, either with organization, with taxes, with taking stress off your plate by handling your bookkeeping, by having somebody to rely on so that you can understand, if you're doing things right or if you're doing things wrong. And I totally get that because I've been there too. That's why I'm going to be talking to you, because I've been where you've been. I've started LLCs on my own where I haven't known anything. I have done all kinds of stuff, including screw up my books and not know how to handle my taxes. And that's what we're going to cover today. So let's get started. This is how I felt when I needed to make a financial decision, when all I had was an LLC and a bank account and an Excel spreadsheet. I needed to hire people and I didn't know how to handle payroll. I didn't know what my taxes were going to be. I didn't know who to get advice from. It was a pain in the ass. Honestly, it was. Let's see, one of the things that I thought was that if you just leave your money in your business, in your LLC, that you don't have to pay taxes on it until you use it. Well, I was super wrong about that. So I struggled with entities. I struggled with how to pay myself. I struggled with how to pay less in taxes. I just struggled with the differences between entities and tax statuses too. I didn't know anything, and it all confused me, and I didn't know where to start. Let's talk about taxes. So what we're going to do is we're first going to we're going to kind of go up. We're going to build on our knowledge. And we're going to start with the self-employed people. We're going to start with the people who just have an LLC. We're going to start with the people who are just 1099. We're going to start with the people who are just getting paid, straight up and no taxes are coming out. The people that don't have any corporations or anything. And we're going to talk about the taxes. So really when we're self-employed, we have two types of taxes. We have income tax and we have self-employment tax. Income tax is charged to you by the government and by the state. The IRS wants money from you and the state that you live in wants money from you. When it comes to self-employment tax, the government says, hey, look, here's the thing. You're employed by yourself. You're not working for anybody and you're not employing anybody. And normally when someone's employed or working for somebody, we are able to collect Social Security and Medicare. So because you're not employed and we can't tax your payroll, and because you don't have any employees and we can't tax your employees, we're going to tax you. And you're going to pay both halves. So you're going to pay the 7.5% for the employees and the 7.5% for the employer, since you are both. So we're going to charge you a flat rate of 15%. And we're just going to add that on to your taxes. What? 15%? That's huge. If you have $100,000 in profit, that's $15,000 that you just owe like that in self-employment tax. Not even including the stuff you owe to the state and to the federal government. This is on top. Let's talk about why the self-employed taxes are so expensive. You have Social Security and Medicare, and those are the two parts of self-employment tax, because the government has to keep putting money into Social Security programs and Medicare programs, and they don't have any other way to collect it aside from payroll taxes. And so if you don't have any employees, they're going to say, oh, we're going to charge you full self-employed taxes. So when you're an employee or an employer, you split it. So if you have someone on payroll, you only have to pay $7,500 of those payroll taxes. So you only have to pay half. So let's just talk about this equation really quick, because I want people to understand what profit is. And profit, honestly, is the same as net income. You take the entire amount of money that you make, and then you subtract all your expenses, which are also known as tax deductions. And then you're left with a number. You're left with your net income, which is the money that's left over after you've spent all your money to make money. This is also known as your profit. So if you have positive money left over after your expenses, you are going to have profit. If you don't have any money left over after your expenses, you're going to show a loss. Either way, we either put a negative number or a positive number on your tax return to tell the government that, hey, we lost money this year. How can we pay you? Or we earned a lot of money this year, and that's what we're going to pay taxes on. Now, those profits right there determine how you pay taxes. You only pay taxes on the profits. So if you don't have any profits, you don't pay taxes on it. But once you start making money, which is what we all want to do, you eventually will have to pay taxes on it. So remember the way this is set up. Your taxes come straight out of your profits. And now we're going to start getting into legal structures, legal entities. And this is the stuff that I really like. I dork out on this stuff, honestly, because it can allow me to do things like rich people do. That's it. That's why I like it. I like dorking out on it because I'm not a rich guy. I'm blue collar. I was a firefighter for 10 years. And now finally I get to understand things like LLCs, S-Corps, C-Corps, and taxation. And I'm like, whoa. This is a whole different set of rules that I can play by. And so it feels really empowering for me. And that's why I dork out on it, because it gets me there. So let's talk about LLCs really quick. LLCs are a separate entity from ourselves. The reason people make LLCs is because they want liability protection. LLCs don't change your taxes. We need to understand that just right off the bat. LLCs do not affect your taxes. LLCs allow you to become an official business, which allows you to do a lot of other things that regular people can't do. And that's one of the reasons why we form LLCs. LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. And the reason they named it that is because you are not liable for the company personally. If you own an LLC, you're not personally liable for what happens within the LLC. So it gives you a layer of protection. But in order to do things like rich people, like I talked about before, you have to have an entity, an LLC, so that you can change its tax status and just have something separate from yourself. That's really important to understand. Now, if you don't have an LLC or if you've never set anything up, you are a sole proprietor. If you get a 1099 paycheck, if you get a paycheck that doesn't have taxes taken out, if you get paid checks, if you just get paid straight up Zelle or Venmo or Cash App or someone gives you cash, you are a sole proprietor. There's no separation between you and your business. You are the business. So the government looks at you as a business. Doesn't care. It doesn't matter how you're earning money. You could sell cars and also cook high-end meals for people, and they don't care. They want to know how much money you made, and they want you to pay taxes on it. And remember, if you don't have an LLC, you're a sole proprietor. So you're going to get charged that extra 15%. Let's get into the basics of an LLC. LLCs are registered with your state. That's it. LLCs are state. Remember that. They give you liability protection. So say, for example, your LLC had a business that had rental properties, and you ran a bunch of rentals, and one of the houses burned down, and someone got hurt. They didn't die, but they got really, really hurt, and then they sued you so they could recoup the money for their medical expenses. They can only go after whatever is within that LLC. They can't go through the LLC and then go take your pension and your wife's retirement and things like that. It all stays within the LLC, and that's what liability protection means. Another thing that LLCs do is they legitimize you and lend a ton of credibility. It says, hey, I've done the work, and I can also do more work by adding on tax statuses. You can also have multiple members and owners, and you can pass the profits through the LLC directly to you. Now, this is interesting because you're like, wait, LLC is taxed like a sole proprietor? I thought an LLC was an entity, and I thought sole proprietors are just sole proprietors. Aha. That's where we're going to get in the differences between LLCs and sole proprietors, because we really have to talk about entities and tax statuses. By default, when you form an LLC, it's taxed like a sole proprietor. So even if you just form an LLC, it doesn't change anything with your business. It doesn't require anything. Let's take a look at some of the differences. You can see that LLCs are registered in your state. They provide a legal shield. You can have multiple owners. The only good thing about sole proprietors is nothing. They're just easy to start. Honestly, sole proprietor is a newbie. You're just at the most basic of levels. And that's how I want you to look at it in your mind. Sole proprietor, LLC, S-Corp, etc. But I mentioned corporation too. Like, we've all heard the word corporation. We've all heard the word limit LLC. We need to understand that corporation is completely different from an LLC. Corporation is really good for people who want to split their company up into more than 100 pieces and raise a bunch of money outside. And the way corporations allow you to do that is by giving stock. And so whenever you form a corporation, you decide how many pieces of stock that you have, and you literally trade stock for money. And so if someone has, 50% of your shares, they own 50% of the business. Holding on to that stock certs is ownership. In LLCs, it's completely different. It's all done based on your operating agreement. It's way more flexible. It's way simpler. It just gives you a ton of flexibility. Just remember this. Most people don't want corporations. Most people want LLCs. They're better in every single way. So now let's talk about S-Corp. On one hand, we have entities. On the other hand, we have tax statuses. Remember, entities are entities. They don't change the way that you're taxed. Tax statuses are tax statuses. Let me give you a list of entities. Sole proprietor, LLC, corporation, trust, partnership. Those are all entities. These are things that you can form. These are things that you can be that don't affect your taxes. When you choose an entity, you also have to choose a tax status. So when you're a sole proprietor, you're by default taxed like a sole proprietor. When you form an LLC, you're taxed like a sole proprietor. When you have a bunch of people in an LLC, you're taxed like a partnership. And so what we want to do is we want to form an LLC, but change our tax status to S-Corp. S-Corp is a tax status that stands for small business, or subchapter S of the tax code. And it is my golden goose. It is my secret. It is the thing that has changed my business more than anything else in my life, because it has eliminated completely that 15% self-employment tax and has allowed me to really dig into being a legitimate business. Okay, let's move on. So the IRS says, okay, you want to do business like a small business, we will give you the tax breaks that you're asking for by doing this. But you have to play by the rules. So just know that if you want to save money as an S-Corp, you have to play the game. First, let's talk about why S-Corps are so great. S-Corp owners don't pay self-employment taxes on their profit. That's 15%. If you make $100,000 a year and you just switch to an S-Corp, you're going to save 15 grand right off the bat. Boom. That's pretty insane. Now let's get into some of the rules. It's true, an S-Corp creates an employer-employee relationship with you and your entity because you have to be on payroll of your S-Corp. And it requires that you pay yourself a reasonable compensation. Reasonable. That's all the IRS says. So let's dig into that really quick. The IRS says that you want to be an S-Corp. Okay, fine. You can be an S-Corp, but you have to be an employee of your business. You can't just keep taking money out of it and avoid all self-employment tax. You have to be an employee. All right, so how do we be an employee? We put ourselves on payroll, which means we set up a payroll system through like QuickBooks, and we put in our social security number and all of our stuff, and our payroll system starts sending us paychecks every 2 weeks. But how much do you pay yourself? That's where the reasonable compensation comes in. The IRS says that you have to pay yourself a reasonable salary. Just know that you have to meet with your tax advisor to determine what your salary is. You can't just take $0 in salary and not pay any payroll taxes and just call yourself an S-Corp. You'll get audited, and it's not a good situation to be in. You want to take a salary. You want to get paid from your S-Corp because those wages are a write-off. They're a tax deduction. It's money you don't have to pay taxes on. There are payroll taxes on your W-2 wages. So when you see your paycheck come out, you're going to have taxes withheld from it. You're going to have taxes withheld for state and federal. You're going to have taxes withheld for Social Security and Medicare. It's going to be a regular ass paycheck. And the payroll taxes are 15.3% because you're going to have to pay on the employee side, the 7.5%, and you're going to have to pay on the employer side as well. You're going to have to pay both. Half are an expense for the S-Corp, so you're saving 7.5% right there because your business is paying for it and it's a write-off. And the other 7.5% is paid out of the W-2 wages, which is also a write-off for your business. So what we've effectively done is taken that whole 15% self-employment tax and given the government what they wanted, which is payroll, so they can collect. Now that they have payroll, which is for us, they're going to give us a tax break on the rest of our stuff. All right, so let's take a look at S-Corp taxation. We have the revenue, and then we have two things. We have salary and the expenses. The salary goes directly to us, but that's where the payroll taxes come out of, or that's where the self-employment tax comes out of. It's not coming out of our big chunk of money. It's coming out of a little chunk of money. Now we can just take the leftover profits and just pass them on to us, and all we have to do is pay income tax. I think this is a game changer. Here's some other things that S-Corps can do for you. They can give you more tax deductions. They can give you the ability to access SEP IRAs and self-directed 401ks and things like that, where you can build your own retirement within your company. You can also run your health insurance through your S-Corp. So how does the money work? We have the business income, then we have the operating expenses. And then here's how you benefit. You're getting payroll from a flat salary. You're getting distributions by cutting yourself a check. And you're getting the fringe benefits, which are also known as like the business paying for your car, the business paying for your home office, business paying for your internet and your cable and your food and your meals. These are the ways that S-Corps benefit you.